Mr. President, Your Honors, the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, representing 110 state parties to the Rome Statute and committed citizens from all over the world, allege that Germain Katanga and Mathieu Ngudjolo Chui are responsible for some of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole. The prosecution submits that they are criminally responsible for crimes against humanity and war crimes committed in Bogoro, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, on 24 February 2003. They use children as soldiers. They kill more than 200 civilians in few hours. They rape women, girls, and elderly. They loot the entire village, and they transform women into sexual slaves. Mr. Katanga and Mr. Ngudjolo were the leaders of militias composed of members of the Lendu and Ngiti communities. They were involved in an armed conflict with the UPC, a militia predominantly composed of members of the Hema community and led by Thomas Lubanga. The Bogor attack was not an isolated event. It was part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Ituri. The Bogoro attack took place at the end of the two Congo wars. This neglected conflict, the Congo wars, involved more than 9 African countries for more than 4 years of fighting. As a consequence of these wars, almost 4 million people died, making the Congo Wars the gravest conflict since World War II. At the root of the Congo Wars is the genocide in Rwanda. I will use this map and then a satellite picture to show the situation. You will see that Bogoro is at the crossroad on the way to Bunia. Mr. Katanga and Mr. Ngudjolo plan to attack Bogoro so as to open the Bunia-Kasenji route, and at the same time prevent UPC attacks on nearby Lendu and Ngiti villages. The UPC had a military camp in the center of Bogoro. It was located at the Bogoro Institute. You can see in the picture its position, and you can see in the picture highlighted the trench that surrounded the Bogoro Institute. This is the situation. The city in a crossroad, UPC there. But Mr. Ngudjolo and Mr. Katanga plan was more than just disabling the UPC. The plan was to wipe out Bogoro, destroying not only the UPC camp, but the whole civilian village. This is the plan, and this is the position of the prosecutor's office. The attack on Bogoro was carried out in successive waves of violence. At around 5:30 in the morning, hundreds of women, men, and children, under the command of Mr. Katanga and Mr. Ngudjolo, armed with automatic weapons, machetes, and spears, descended on the village center. Mr. Katanga and Mr. Ngudjolo forces did not distinguish between military and non-military targets. When questioned about the number of civilian deaths, Mr. Ngudjolo responded, and I quote, "There are not any civilians amongst the Hemas. They are all soldiers." Therefore, civilians and UPC soldiers were killed without distinction. Some were shot in their sleep. Some cut up with machetes to preserve bullets. Others were burnt alive after their house were set on fire by the attackers. Awakened by gunfire and the screams of their neighbors, some civilians attempted to flee, but found the escape routes blocked. Most were shot in flight. Many sought refuge in the Bogoro Institute, in the center of town. They were easy prey. As you will hear, the bodies of dead civilians filled the rooms of the Bogoro Institute. Captured civilians were forced at gunpoint to lure out other community members who were hiding in the bush. When they appeared, these survivors were brutally executed. The joint attack achieved its goal, but horror was not over yet for the women of Bogoro. Once captured, some women hid their Hema identity to save their life. Those later revealed as Hema were killed. The others were raped and forced into marriage as combatant wife, or detained to serve as sexual slaves by Mr. Katanga or Mr. Ngudjolo soldiers. The prosecution will show that Germain Katanga and Mathieu Ngudjolo planned the attack. They were the top commanders of the forces which kill, rape, and loot the civilians, and that both intended and were satisfied by the success of their criminal operation.